king of the palace. Rubber like Malcolm. Balled up fist in the air to the flashlight. Yeah. Hands up in the air till they gun me down. I keep it 100, they crunching the numbers, I'm out. Young hitter, got a fetish for success. If I ain't next, and I just leave impression. Next to rain on the window pane, puffin' plain Jane. Let them second guess me, wanna cop the Porsche with the porcelain skin. Grip the wheels, let the horses do splits. Why they trash at the chore on my list? Added a sword, but I saw with the pen. I'm eating good, Miss Caloric is lit. I sipped the potion, imported it.
What's up, Builders Club TV Nation? You got Dewan Jones here, your professional stay-at-home dad, and I'm totally fired up, ladies and gentlemen. I'm excited for our guest that we have tonight. Entrepreneur, business mentor, professional speaker. If you spend any time on the internet, guys, you know the name Jarrod Wilkins. We got him on the show with us tonight. Excited, fired up to have this gentleman. We're going to get the opportunity, family, to speak with him a little bit, kind of get inside of his head. You know how we do, kind of steal some golden nuggets from him as much as we can. Let me get myself on camera, family, so I can speak to you. And as always, want to thank you for tuning in tonight, and also for subscribing to the show. Let us tell you how much we appreciate you, telling folks about the platform, letting everyone know that the Builders Club TV Nation is here, is live, direct, and in effect. Let me make sure that we got our friend on with us. Jarrod, can you hear me okay, sir? Awesome. Let me get you on camera so the family can see you, man, and we can chop it up with you a little bit, man. Let me get you on camera here. There we go. How's it going, brother?
I'm excellent as always. How you holding up, man?
Man, I'm doing good. Blessed as always, man. Definitely excited to have you here with us on the show, man. We see you out there making some major moves, helping a lot of people win inside of the home business industry. And so when we got the opportunity to grab a hold of you, man, and get you on the show, we got very excited when we found out that you'd be coming on. So thank you for coming on to the show, brother.
I'm excited about what you're doing, the lives you're touching, and just excited to share what I call some transferable truths tonight, and prayerfully somebody grabs a hold of it and doesn't quit. So I'm excited.
Absolutely, man. I got to tell you, definitely you're one of the best when it comes to motivating individuals. I follow you tough online, man. Love the motivation, the content that you put out there. You yourself doing a fantastic, terrific job of touching many lives, including myself, man. Learned a lot from you watching your career over the years. And so again, excited to have you on. Jarrod, if you've seen the show a little bit, man, what we like to do, we have something we call the Builders Club TV time machine, man. Brother, what that basically means is we like to throw you in our time machine and take the family back so we can discover some of the hidden jewels and some of the things that you had to endure to get to the level of success that you have accomplished today, man. And we know that your past is going to reveal it all, man. Would you agree?
I agree 1,000%.
Awesome. So, hey, man, if we can, let's jump in, strap on our seatbelts, family. And Jarrod Wilkins, if you'll tell us, man, what was life like for you before you discovered the industry of home business?
You know, for me, it was interesting in that, my mother is from Nigeria and my dad is from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So roll tide, right?
Wow.
And so they met here in Houston in undergrad, and they both went to law school. So my dad's path was very simple in that he went to law school. He was the youngest of three, and went to law school, graduated, took the bar, and became an attorney. My mother, she's the oldest or eldest of five. It didn't work out so well for her. She failed the bar exam twice. Now, the bar exam in Texas is the hardest exam to pass. People like Hillary Clinton, Sheila Jackson Lee, Michelle Obama have all failed the bar here.
Wow.
And so when you look at that word bar, B-A-R, belief, action, results, we'll talk about that later. But as a consequence, what ended up happening, Mr. Jones, is that she took me back home to Nigeria to memorialize her father, which was my late grandfather. The way we migrated in terms of my mother's family over to America was he was given a scholarship as the first bishop of our entire village back home in Nigeria. And as a result of that, as a consequence, he was able to use education as the pathway and the bridge to bringing us from Africa to America. And so it's amazing how everything went full circle, because we went back to memorialize him because he had passed in 1988. And so we went back in 1989 and I was 5 years old. And so here I was growing up in the U.S., growing up in conditions that were, not as extreme in terms of running water, electricity. You had your family, your comfort.
Yeah.
And I was now put into a place in a position where, number one, I didn't know anybody. This was my formative years from ages 5 through 12, because I ended up staying in Nigeria for 6 years because my mother gave me a kiss, and that was at age 5, and I didn't see her until age 12. So I ended up staying with my grandmother, who was a guidance counselor, a principal of sorts, in that country, and highly revered and respected. To make a long story short, we were just in Nigeria about 2 years ago to bury her. She had over 10,000 people at her funeral.
Wow.
And so that just shows the brevity of the impact that she had there, because she put all of her siblings through college. She was the bridge, or the Harriet Tubman, to bring them from Nigeria over to America back in the 60s and 70s. And so, make a long story short, I ended up being there for 6 years, no running water, no electricity, no mom, no dad, no family, no continuity of what was comfortable for me. And I had to learn a new language. I had to learn new culture, new food types, new food groups, had to learn a new existence. And so I was too American to be accepted as Nigerian for 6 years. And then 6 years after that, when I came back to America, I was too Nigerian to be embraced as an American. And so I had a cataclysmic collision, whereas I was too much of something and not enough of another thing. And so if you could imagine, it left me in a deficit of hunger and desire, but insecurity. And so that was my foundation, which it was rich in culture, rich in heritage, rich in language, rich in understanding and knowledge of self. But I was also fragile, because although I had that as a foundation, I still had to matriculate through, discovering who I was, what I did, and how I could have impact in the world. And so now coming through that, I still had the direction of, a hunger and a desire. So I was always ambitious. I was always, as they would say, motivated. I had a motive for action. And so when I got involved or introduced to this wonderful profession that we once called multi-level marketing or network marketing, now we've changed that to direct sales or home-based business, or many of my friends call it social selling, because language is the software of the mind. And so you've got to learn how to speak without offending and listen without defending. And so we've got to change our language a bit. So anyhow, I got introduced through a mutual friend of myself, and I took a look at this profession, and here's the biggest thing. I found a mentor. I found a man that was a portrait of possibilities, in that he was retired in his 30s, he and his wife. He would spend time with his family. He had the trappings of success, but was not trapped by the success. And I believe that is our call as leaders. It is to be, what you eloquently said at the beginning of this broadcast, an example, because I believe the way you live your life will be either A, an example for people to follow, or B, a warning for people to avoid. And he was certainly an example for me coming up in the profession, to say, wow, if the end result is to have the lifestyle and the significance and impact that he is having, I'm willing to go through the various vicissitudes of life and this business to learn and to earn and then eventually return. I'm willing to grow through it all. And so I got started in the profession in 2004, August 28, 2004. I enrolled into this profession, and I've been here ever since, and you can't cut me out of here with a chainsaw. I've tried to quit several times, but God won't see fit to let me leave, so I'm still here.
Wow. Well, I want to dig into that a little bit. When you talk about your first experiences in the industry, there's a lot of gold in that. So we can unpack that just a little bit, so the family can kind of see in detail some of the things you had to experience at the beginning of your career. Talk to us about that, Jarrod. Tell us, man, ears wet, how they say it, wet behind the ears. You getting started. What was the first experiences like, when you first, because we know you got started, but tell us about that, how they say it, your first year in network marketing. What was that like for Jarrod Wilkins?
My first year was incredible. I made absolutely no money. But I made no money, but I was exposed to mission. And I always tell people, I used to see a post that people promoted on social media, and you got to be careful with social media. It's giving a voice to victims, and which is great, but it's also giving a voice to those that are vicious. And so you got to go through things with a fine-tooth comb. But I say that because I saw a post many years ago that said the greatest thing you can do for a person is put them in the position to make money. And it sounds good, and a lot of times things sound good, but they are not good. In that, when you put a person in the position to make money, and if you have them make money without a mission, they become a menace to society. And so the blessing for me was I didn't make a whole lot of money my first year, but I was exposed to a level of thought, to a lane of professionalism, and into an environment of purpose that allowed me to continue to matriculate through this process of growth and development. And so I didn't make a whole lot of money. I think my best month of income was maybe $500 to $700. As a matter of fact, to be completely candid, my first 6 years in the business, and I'm attending every event, by the way. I'm going to the business briefings. We used to do meetings back then. We still do meetings now, but of course, because of technology and social media, you can get your marketing message out to the masses without having to just only do meetings. But back then, I came into the profession on the tail end of the antiquated fax machine and the introduction of cell phones. So I'm right on the cusp. So I understand those that built in the 80s and 90s, and I embrace those of us that are building now, right? Wow. So my first year, I was in the predicament and the fortuitous position to learn how to build people. And a friend of mine, he and I were talking last night at the Rockets game, season tickets, $24,000 for the year. But we were there, and he paid for the season tickets, by the way. But anyway, we were there, and we were talking about how so many times in our profession, you can become exposed to the slime of the industry, and it can taint your mentality from having to go do the work. And we were so grateful that we weren't tainted. We didn't know anything about the deals and people giving this leg of business and all of the things that happen behind the scenes. We weren't privy to that information. All we were privy to were people that had gotten started in the business and had built it, had developed themselves, developed skill set, and had a will, and we were willing to learn. I was willing to go out there and shake hands and meet people, even though I was scared, even though I was nervous, because here's the thing. In our business, it's all about influence. If you have no influence, nobody wants to listen to you. And if you can get people to listen, you can allow them to learn. And so the biggest challenge for most of us as to why you're not a 6-figure or a 7-figure a year earner is because you don't have the influence to garner the attention of people that will partner with you right then and there. And so what you've got to do is over time. Remember, I always say that success doesn't happen overnight, it happens night after night. So over time of you meeting people and learning and studying, see, our product in this business is not the product of the company. It doesn't matter if they're selling a service or a nutritional supplement of some sort, credit service, legal service, phone service, Forex service, whatever service it is. That's not your product. That's the company's product. Your product, my product, is people. When you learn people, and most importantly, understand how to move people, because you understand how to move yourself, then you can move the company's products, and then you can get into profits.
That's amazing, man. And that is 1000% the truth. I got to tell you, influence is something that I had to learn. It took me a long time just to figure out that math. You mentioned something while you were speaking, how I want to talk to you a little bit about social media, because you're right. Social media has given a different angle to the game and kind of changed things and actually opened up new opportunities inside of this profession that you've been able to create a lot of success in. You said, although it gives a voice to victims, I found that interesting. Can you kind of tell us what that actually means?
Yeah, what I mean by the voice to the victims is people that have a story, an authentic message, whereas they have suffered with some of the afflictions that other people are suffering from, whether it's depression, whether it's oppression, whether it's a lack in any area. And here are the people that I find connect the most. The people that have had a story of victimhood, but they haven't labeled themselves a victim. And so in other words, nobody knew about David until he defeated Goliath. And oftentimes what happens with social media is we want to show people our 5 smooth stones, but nobody cares about them until you've used those stones to defeat the Goliath in your life, the Goliath of getting the finances in order, of getting your marriage in order, being a good or great dad or mother. What have you done with what you have? Because it is what you have that now qualifies you to talk to those that have the same affliction and the same circumstance. And so really all we're doing in business, in marketing, is connecting our message with the masses of people that have once suffered from the same things that we've overcome.
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. And you might be one of the most qualified people to ask this question, because I hear a lot of story and individual story and some of the things, your talking points. How important is it to include your story with your marketing message? Because there's a lot of people that leave their story out of their marketing message, and some even carbon copy or make a copy of someone else's message and really not true to their own. I see you doing that a lot in the way that you promote yourself. You got Build It for your last name, which is just dope in my opinion. I want to talk to you about that too. But how important is it to include your story in your marketing message?
It's everything. Your story is what makes you uniquely qualified to fulfill your assignment. And so I often tell people that people don't join companies. And you got to figure out why is that. There are different traits, or what I call transferable truths. And I can guarantee you, one of the transferable truths is sharing your story. They want to know who you are, where you're from, what you do, where you're going, and why they should care. And so as long as in your marketing message you incorporate your story, just like I did at the beginning of this broadcast, I talked about my story. Why? Because my story allows me to dislodge and dispute the negative story that you have about what I'm doing or about yourself. That's the purpose of a story. It is to communicate and move past a person's head and resonate into their heart. And when you resonate into a person's heart, then you can ask for their hand. You can't ask for a person's hand until you first touch their heart. And the way you touch their heart is by sharing your authentic message. Now, you've got to be able to learn how to share your story, because we don't want to hear again about all the stuff you've gone through and all the stuff you've been through until you've overcome it. What do I mean by that? There is the public story and there is the private sacrifice. We want to hear the public story, not hear the private sacrifice. So if right now you can't pay your light bill, we don't want to hear that. That's your private sacrifice.
Right.
All right? Now, after you've made some money and you've paid your light bill, and paid somebody else's light bill, and paid your mom's light bill, or whomever it is, now your private sacrifice can become your public story. Because what you're looking to do is reach that person that is privately struggling with something you've succeeded in. And that's what makes you authentically and uniquely qualified to share. Because if you share your private sacrifice before it's become a public story, you're not sharing a story. You're simply complaining.
Wow. Bruh, sign me up, man. When are you opening up the church or something, bruh? That's it. That's it right there, man. Let's talk about Build It for your last name, because again, I like that. Where did that come from?
It came from a series of experiences, and through fasting and prayer, the whole synopsis of it came together. 2015, I was going through a position in life that everybody faces. It's called transition. I define transition as that place in life where you say, I don't necessarily know where I'm going, but I do know where I can no longer stay. In other words, I'm not quite a butterfly, but I am tired and sick and tired, in the words of Fannie Lou Haman, of being sick and tired, meaning I don't want to crawl as a caterpillar anymore. I would rather crawl to my future than run back to my past. That's a place called transition, right?
Right.
And so through this place, I had discovered, we had gone on and we had done extremely well in business to the tune of earning in weeks $20,000+ a week, which was a lot of money for me back then. And we had seen a business, just take on leaps and bounds, growing from literally just 0 people to more than 20,000+ people in a half a dozen countries, and had people on our team, leaders on our team that had achieved 6-figure income results, and things were rocking and rolling, and all of a sudden it changed. Not because I slept with anybody's wife, I didn't cuss nobody out, didn't steal none, didn't lie, none of that. And here's what I now recognize, that sometimes bad things happen to good people, right?
Yeah. And
the only constant in life is change. You either change or life will change on you. That's why I always tell people, you may be done with your past, but oftentimes your past is not done with you. And so it's amazing that I look at it now, whereas we can all agree that literally thousands of people die every single year because of what they eat. But what people don't realize is that millions more die every single year because of what's eating them.
Man, come on with it.
2015, I was being eaten up, man. And I don't ever want to make it sound like it was so detrimental, because man, we still had all of our stuff. We still had our Mercedes, and we still had our home, and we still had our Porsche. We still had all the stuff. Right. But we all know stuff will never fulfill you. Stuff can make you happy because happiness is connected to what's happening. In 2015, it wasn't the stuff. I was happy, but I wasn't fulfilled, man. I was waking up in cold sweats because things were not flowing anymore. It wasn't fun. I wasn't fulfilled. And I was still grateful that we had meals to eat, had a roof over our head, had all of our stuff. But I just knew that this was not all to life. And I never forget, I started searching. For answers. My late mentor, Dr. Miles Monroe, says, eyes that look are common, but eyes that can see are rare. And in order to see, you've got to search. Seek and ye shall find. That's what scripture says. And so a moment for me is watching an interview. Stumbled upon an interview in 2014, 2015 by Damon Dash, and he was on the Breakfast Club. And he was talking about his success.
Classic.
Yes, he was talking about his success and challenging people, because a lot of people don't understand that if not for Damon Dash, there is no Jay-Z. There was a connection. There was dreams colliding. That's why we have a company called When Dreams Collide. In other words, there's somebody that is connected to you, because who you're connected to is taking you somewhere. And oftentimes your dreams need to collide so you can collaborate and accomplish what it is that you're supposed to be accomplishing. And so he was talking about all of this, and they were basically challenging him, and he was challenging them to not only entertain people, not only, do those, normal things. He says, man, you have the largest platforms for the social demographics of minorities and the millennial generation. And all you do is every day entertain them. Why not educate and empower them? Talk about entrepreneurship and business. And they're like, giving some pushback. And Damon Dash did something that was very controversial. He asked him, he said, how long have you been doing this? One said 15 years. How long you been doing this? 17 years. How long you been in the entertainment business? 20 years. He says, can any one of your children come up to this radio station right now and get a position? Can any one of your children, will they own this radio station? And they're like, no, but we've got investments outside of this. We got real estate. We got stocks. He said, man, I don't want to hear nothing about your stocks and your real estate. You've been putting your time, your effort, your sweat equity into this entity for 15, 20 years. You got the #1 syndicated show. You're making millions of dollars for the corporate sponsors and the owners, but you don't own anything. And he says, my kids, I'm teaching them how to own, how to be entrepreneurs and be business developers. He said, my son, he's got a cookie business, and he started showing the cookies, and they started laughing, because that's what people do when they're challenged. The average is always aggravated by assignment. In other words, people that want to remain status quo, people that want to remain average, people that want to remain lukewarm are always aggravated when you bring up accomplishments and assignments. And so he says, that's y'all's problem. He said, you hustle for your first name. I hustle for my last name. It was game over. That was the seed for me. And I always tell people the harvest never looks like the seed. You can count the amount of apples, or you can count the amount of seeds in an apple, but you can never count the amount of apples that will come from one single seed. That was a seed for me in 2014. And in 2015, the fertilizer for my seed was failure. A lot of people don't understand that failure is the fertilizer for your future success. So I got the seed because I was searching, I was seeking. I got that seed deposited. When things changed in business, when we started to fail, when we watched the business disintegrate and be depleted, that was the failure or the fertilizer that I needed that was required. Although it didn't feel good, it ended up working for my good because it then took root and germinated that seed. And when the appropriate time came place, I went through fasting and prayer for the first time in my life, not for money, but for mission. My wife and I decided to fast, and for 2 weeks we fasted. And I never forget we had a podcast, which we're coming out with season 3 in the next 30 days here, called Motivational Moments. That seed came from watching a gentleman named Eric Thomas, E.T. the hip hop preacher, do a podcast, thank God it's Monday, every single Monday. And he was dropping it on YouTube. And he went from dropping that message on YouTube, sharing and sowing, where somebody saw it, shared it on Twitter, it got 9 million views. And that catapulted his career in speaking from being unknown to now charging $50,000 an hour to deliver a keynote speech. And I said, he and I are as gifted as one another. He's got his own lane. I've got my own lane. I can do that too. Opposed to doing motivational Monday, motivational moment on Monday, I'm gonna do motivational moment in the morning, Monday through Friday, because I'm gonna outshare, outsow, and outwork my competition. And so Monday through Friday, my wife and I were waking up at 6:30 in the morning for 20 minutes and sowing into people's lives, motivating, inspiring, talking about transferable truths that we had lived, because you can't teach anything with any degree of authority that you yourself have not done. That's why I tell people, show me your friends and I will show you your future. I was on the floor after one of our podcasts that morning, and I was playing a worship song. I fell out on my face because I said, man, I don't want to hear from another speaker. I don't want to hear another presenter. I don't want to hear another preacher. I don't want to hear another business consultant. God, I need to hear from you. You need to tell me, and I need to hear vividly and clearly what you want me doing with the next season of my life. And I heard him clearly. He said, build it for your last name. I got up because that's what a vision does. A vision causes you to get up. The reason why people sit down is because they allow their setbacks to cause them to sit back. And what pulls you up from where you sat is a vision, something that you see. It is when you begin to see that you begin to get up. And I got up from the floor. I ran downstairs and I told my wife, baby, starting in 2016, we are going to build it for our last names, because my philosophy and our philosophy is ambition is about me, vision is about we. In other words, if what you're doing does not make somebody else's life better, you're wasting your time. And starting 2016 till this moment in time now, all we have done is focus on that vision of build it for your last name. And it has connected and allowed us to collaborate with people from all over the world that vision resonates with. If the words inheritance, because an inheritance is what you leave for people, a legacy is what you leave in them. And not only should you leave a legacy, you should live a legacy. Because I don't want to just have a legacy when I leave. I want to have one while I'm yet living. I want to touch people, and I want to know that I'm touching them while I'm yet alive. That's why I agreed to do this, because when you told me that what we were doing had impacted you, I said, that's a part of my legacy. I want to live it and experience it and collaborate and connect with people that the message of what we're living, although we're not perfect, is resonating.
Jarrod Wilkins, everybody. Jarrod, will you give out your social media, man, and website, anything else that the family can get in touch if they like?
Yes, it's Jarrod Wilkins, Jarrod, Jarrod, Wilkins, Wilkins. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, MySpace. You can find me all over the place, but or you could go and search the hashtag on Instagram, BIFYLN, BIFYLN, or hashtag build it for your last name. And what I've learned is you cannot hide yourself from the marketplace when you truly have a mission. So we're all over the place, sharing and connecting and collaborating.
Wow. Well, we here at the Builders Club TV are definitely fans of Build It For Your Last Name. We want to make sure that we have you back, man, because we have been filled and we want more of that food that you're cooking up on the show, man. So much wisdom. We want to definitely have you back. In fact, we're working on a new series, Jarrod, called A Day in the Life. And basically what this is, we're working on it right now, and the family knows, everyone's excited. It's basically the lifestyles of the rich and famous for the network marketing industry. But it's really personal development meets lifestyle, because even though we share the lifestyle, you could be out eating dinner, you could be, headed to a meeting. We kind of catch you in the act. But we also get the opportunity to hear more from you, see what you got going on, and also get some of that inspiration as well, man. So we definitely got to have you back on the show.
Love to do it, man. Count me in.
Absolutely. Before we let you go, we've been playing a new game with our guests, and they've been loving it, been killing it, crushing it. The family's been excited about it. We call it a word of advice with a mentor. And Jarrod, basically the way that it works is I'm going to shoot a few words at you, and with every word that I give you, you're going to give us back a word of advice using that word. Make sense?
I love it. Let's do it.
All right, let's go. So the first word we got, family, for Jarrod Wilkins is adapt.
Adaptability gives you visibility, and visibility gives you profitability. You have to learn how to adapt in every environment, because the environment that you're in is the one that you create and the one that you influence.
Bars. Love it. The next one we got for you is desire.
Desire is the starting point for all of achievement. There can be no destiny without desire. Your desire is what allows you to take the daily routine footsteps to destiny. So if you ever want to get to destiny, number one, you got to release your history, develop the desire to march and walk forward towards your destiny.
That's good stuff. The next word is foundation.
Foundation is the element of everything. Without a foundation, you can't build a house. So don't focus on building a tall skyscraper until you focus on developing the foundation of what it is that you're going to build. And this is how I know you're developing a foundation. We can't see it. You can look at the tallest buildings in the world. You will never see the foundation, but you will feel the foundation because the building is yet standing.
Man. So the next word we have for you is transition.
Transition. I talked about it earlier. Transition is that place in life that you get to where you say, I don't know where I'm going, but I know where I'm no longer staying. And you know when your time is up. You know when it's time to move on, because you're walking on eggshells. You're trying to say the right things to the wrong people. You no longer fit into an environment or into the status quo. You're uncomfortable because you've outgrown where you're supposed to go to. And here's what I would tell you. Transition is operative and necessary for change. And that word change, the acronym is CHANGE. It means choose happiness and never give excuses.
Wow. The last word that we have, the last final word we have for you, Jarrod, is time.
Time is always on your side. In other words, I tell people all of the time that you're born looking like your parents, but you die looking like your choices. The difference between here and there is the letter T. And that letter T stands for time. If you give yourself the time, and if you give your dream the time, if you give the vision the time, if you give yourself the time, if you put in the time, you will definitely get from here to your there.
Wow, you killed it. You crushed it as expected, man. Again, we appreciate you coming on to the show, Jarrod. We definitely got to have you back. This has been great. I know the family's going to love it, man. So we definitely got to have you back on the show, brother. Thank you for coming on once again. Builders Club TV family, Jarrod Wilkins. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Thank you, sir. Signing off.